sport or trail riding is a lot of fun. I got into it about a year and a half ago and have been just having the time of my life. I wish I would have started it a lot sooner. In this video, I'm going to share my experience on how to get started in dual sport riding, whether it be riding with a friend or riding on your own. And look at that view. I mean, that's one of the things I love about dual sport riding is you're up in the mountains, fresh air, just having a blast. It is really a lot of fun. So I live in Oregon, and so this video is going to be kind of focused on what you need to do to get into it in Oregon, but it should apply to just about every state, because I would guess most states are very similar to Oregon as far as the rules go. So here you can see in the video kind of some single track. One of the advantages of single track is you don't go quite as fast, and it's actually a little easier than it may look in the video, although this section right here is a little bit more technical, but it's still not that hard. I actually think riding single track is a little bit easier than riding on the street. I've got years and years of street riding, and so here you can see I'm in what they call a OHV area, and you can see there are signs, and each one of those trail signs kind of gives a description of how difficult the trail is and a trail number that you can use to look it up on a map. And although I have a map, I've found I rarely pull out the map. When I first started, I worried a lot about getting lost, but after riding up here for a while, I've kind of learned that if you just ride around enough, you eventually pop out somewhere. Just make sure you have enough gas in the tank. But you can see it's just beautiful up here. And here we have a little more of an example of a forest road, which would also be dual sport riding. And there's a lot of forest roads up in the area that we ride in. And one of the advantages of riding on forest roads is you get to see, I think, more views. I mean, look at that beautiful view. I mean, you're covering a lot more ground when you ride on a forest road, which gives you an opportunity just to see a lot more. I actually enjoy forest roads, I say, just as much as single track. One of the disadvantages of forest roads, if you're just starting out, is you tend to drive a little bit faster, I think, on forest roads than you do on single track. And so if you're new to riding, of course, you don't have to drive fast. I suppose you can ride slow. Here we have an example of an ATV trail, and I think this is actually the best type of a trail to start off on, because it's kind of like a single track, but it's not really technical, and you can drive nice and slow. And these bikes are kind of designed for this type of trail. Here we have a little steeper section on the ATV trail, but you can see it's still not difficult and an awful lot of fun. I mean, it's just, you get up here with your buddies and tool around and just enjoy the fresh air. It's hard to beat. And I've had friends who've thought about riding with me before be concerned because they've ridden their street bikes in gravel and hated the feeling. And I can tell you it's nothing like that riding off-road. You actually have very good feel while riding on trails. So to ride in Oregon, you need what they call an ATV safety card. And you get that by going online and taking about an hour or two long course and then passing a test. It doesn't cost anything, but you need to do that in order to be legal to ride up here. There's a link in the description to the course, and it's actually not that bad. So of course you've got to get to the riding area, and since these are dual sport bikes that I'm talking about, you have the option of riding out. The problem with riding out is you need a motorcycle endorsement, and if you're new to it, you may not have that, especially if you're just trying it out. So a really good option is to trailer out. When I first started riding, I did not like the idea of trailering at all, but I've discovered I like it a lot. And one of the reasons I like it is that it allows me to spend time with whoever I'm riding with on the drive out and back. Because while you're riding, you really can't talk to the other person unless you have an intercom. And it's kind of nice to be able to spend time afterwards discussing the ride. Plus, it's just kind of relaxing if you've worn yourself out. Another big advantage is if you break something on the bike, it's nice to be able to trailer it back and not have to fix it on the trail. So of course you cannot go riding without gear, and the most important piece of gear is probably the helmet. And you can see here a couple of my helmets. I actually own a bunch of helmets, and if you've got somebody that's getting you into it, they probably have a helmet you can borrow. You really want your own helmet because it's important that a helmet fits properly, but that's something you can probably borrow if you're trying it out. Boots are much more important than most people believe they are. We've got my hiking boots there on the right, and my commuting boots in the middle, and my motocross boots on the left there. When I first started, I thought the hiking boots would be fine, and I quickly realized with rocks and stuff hitting those boots that I wanted something heavier. And after having ridden for a while and dumped the bike a number of times, I would not ride off-road without my motocross boots because they really do protect your feet. And boots are, I think, much more important than a lot of people believe or realize that they are. So if you're just starting, start off with the heaviest boots you can find, and once you get into it, I think boots would be the second piece of safety equipment that you'd really want to invest in, probably before other items. And the next item is gloves. We've got my street gloves on the right there and a couple pairs of motocross gloves. Motocross gloves are fairly cheap. You can usually find them on sale for 10 to 20 bucks. And one thing I love about them is that they let your fingers breathe, so I like them a lot more than riding with street gloves. So another piece of equipment that I think is very important is knee guards. We've got a couple sets here. The ones on the left I got for about $9. They really weren't that expensive. And if you crash, your knees are the first thing that's going to hit the ground. And so I think having a set of knee guards is pretty important. The ones on the right there, I think those were like $15 or $19. I mean, they're just not that expensive. And I think it's well worth the protection that they give you. So that's something I would pick up even if you're just trying it out. So the last piece of gear I'm going to talk about is body armor. And I don't think you need body armor when you first get started or if you're just trying it out. But if you know you're going to do it or know you're going to like it and you really want to get into it, eveRide has got some body armor that he recommends. I'll put a link down at the bottom that I think it's under 50 bucks. And I know I've seen it at some of the motorcycle shops around here for under 50 bucks, kind of the Chinese armor, which I think would be fine. And I've got the Fox armor, and I have crashed a number of times with mine, and I've never even gotten a bruise. So once you've decided, kind of committed to dual sport riding, I would definitely get some body armor, but it's not something that you need if you're just getting into it or just testing it out to see whether or not you like it. So, of course, the most important thing you need is a motorcycle. You can't go dual sport riding without a motorcycle. And one thing about dual sport riding is bikes are always either too heavy or too light. So most guys who ride dual sports tend to have more than one bike, or a lot of them do. So here I am on my KLR. The KLR, I think, is a little bit heavy for somebody who's just starting out. It's a 650, and it's a fairly heavy bike. Here I am on a Honda XL 650R. It's a lot lighter than the KLR. I think it would actually be a pretty good bike for somebody who's just starting out, although because being a 650, it's still a little bit heavier than some other bikes. So here I am on a DRZ 400, and this bike actually is a very good bike, I think, for starting out. In this video I'm on something that's a little bit technical, just to kind of show that the DRZ can do something that's technical. And one of the things that's really nice about the DRZ, it's a big enough bike that you can actually ride it on the street without any issue. Yet you can do these single tracks, and of course if you're just starting out, a 250 would probably be a little bit better than the DRZ, but I don't have a 250, and so if you're riding with me, you're probably gonna this would be the bike that I would actually recommend for friends that are coming up and riding with me. So here I am on a Buddy's KLX 250 or 200, and this is a two-stroke. And although this bike is really light and a very easy bike to manage as far as just the way it feels, two-strokes tend to be quite a bit more explosive as far as the power goes, and so I don't think I would really recommend a two-stroke for somebody who's just starting out, although these KLXs are very easy to ride, and it wouldn't be a bad bike for somebody who's going up for the first time. So here I am on my KTM SX 250, which is also a two-stroke. I would not recommend this bike because the power is just way too explosive, and although it's a good light bike, it would be a very kind of an intimidating bike, I think, for somebody who's going up for the first time. So kind of important to pick the bike that you want to start off with, just so that you have a good experience and look forward to it and want to go again. But I really wouldn't worry about the bike too much, because whatever you ride, it's a lot easier than you might think dual sport riding up here. So here's a good example of one of the cool things about where I go riding is they've got these paved sections that interconnect the trails, and you're allowed to ride on these even without a motorcycle endorsement. So if you're new to motorcycle riding and you want to see what it's like to ride on the pavement, you can get up here and actually do that. So that's basically what I think you need to know to get into dual sport riding. riding, and it is a lot of fun. I've been riding motorcycles for many years, and as I said at the beginning, I just got into this about a year and a half ago, and I really wish I would have done it a lot sooner. When I first started, I started on my own. Really didn't have any friends that dual sport ride, or went dual sport riding, so I was up here just all by myself, kind of figuring this out. After riding for a little bit, I met some friends that also had dual sports, or they weren't friends when I met them, but we became really good friends since then. And the dual sport community, there's a bunch of really nice people that are more than happy to help you out. So, and it's just gorgeous up here. So, I mean, you can just see from these views, it is just really hard to beat the fresh air, the exercise, and just the enjoyment of being up here. Plus, it's something you get to do with your buddies, and it's a lot of fun. So anyhow, thanks for watching.